In Indonesia, the ash of a volcano rose into the stratosphere. In Thailand, tourists were trapped by a rain bomb. In Ethiopia, a volcano that had been silent for 12,000 years became active. In Australia, giant hail the size of an orange fell. And in Russia, anomalous atmospheric phenomena were observed. Learn more about the events of the past week right now. Vietnam. Several days of torrential rains led to unprecedented flooding in the south-central region of Vietnam. The amount of rainfall exceeded all historical records. In less than 24 hours, record floods formed on the rivers. Local hydroelectric dams had to release water, which further increased the scale of destruction. In Dak Lek province, one of the hardest hit areas, more than 1,800 millimeters of rain fell in some places over the course of a week. Water in homes rose so rapidly that people had to break through their roofs to escape the powerful currents. Many families had to spend about 30 hours there. Social media became filled with calls for help. In certain areas of Kan Hoa province, water levels rose to 4 to 5 meters. Residents of Cat Tien district in Lam Dong province found themselves isolated from the outside world due to the flooding. Authorities used boats and specialized equipment to deliver food and essential supplies. The total number of victims of the large-scale flooding reached 98 people, and 10 were reported missing. Almost 1.2 million subscribers were left without electricity. Landslides damaged sections of 2 national highways. More than 200,000 homes were flooded, some of them completely destroyed. The disaster destroyed more than 90,000 hectares of rice and other crops and caused extensive damage to fisheries. Nearly 1 million head of livestock and poultry died. More than 42,000 servicemen and over 1,200 units of equipment were deployed to eliminate the consequences of the flooding. Indonesia. In the province of East Java in Indonesia, a powerful eruption of Mount Semeru occurred. Its activity had begun to increase since the middle of November. For several days, ash clouds were forming above the summit, and on the 19th day, pyroclastic flows burst from the crater and moved down the channel of the Bisuk Kobokin River. They came one after another, advancing up to 14 kilometers along the southern and southeastern slopes, and the ash plume rose to 18 kilometers. The activity of the volcano increased so rapidly that within just 1 hour the alert level was raised to the maximum. The boundaries of the exclusion zone were expanded to 8 kilometers, and in the southeastern sector to 20. In some communities, rock fragments and scorching ash destroyed residential buildings, damaged a school, a medical facility, and a power substation. More than 200 hectares of agricultural land were destroyed, and more than 140 head of livestock died. At least 3 people received serious injuries. Among the victims was a couple traveling across a bridge. Due to a layer of hot ash, their motorcycle skidded, and they sustained burns to up to 20% of their body surface. In some settlements, people reported a sharp smell of sulfur that caused coughing and breathing problems. More than 1,100 people evacuated from their homes and took shelter in school buildings, mosques, and local government offices. In addition, 187 people, climbers, porters, and guides, were evacuated from the northern slope of Semeru, near Lake Ranu Kumbolo. Due to the onset of darkness and unfavorable weather, they had to spend the night on the mountain, and only the next day could they leave the dangerous area. By the 23rd of November, the situation began to normalize, and some residents returned to their homes. Nevertheless, Mount Semeru remained at the highest level of danger, and on the morning of the next day, it released white smoke up to 1 kilometer above the summit. During 6 hours, 44 seismic tremors were recorded. Russia. The Chelyabinsk region was hit by freezing rain on the 22nd of November. The federal M5 Ural highway became covered with ice, leading to numerous accidents. Multi-kilometer traffic jams formed, and some sections had to be completely closed. In the Satka district, instead of the expected snow, rain fell at a temperature of -5 degrees Celsius, instantly turning into ice on super-cooled surfaces. Because of the icy conditions, dozens of people were injured and sought medical attention. In Tiumen, a similar situation occurred: ice-coated trees, cars, railings, roads, and sidewalks, turning the city into a dangerously slick ice rink. In the Central Federal District of the country, from the 21st to the 24th of November, anomalous thunderstorm activity was recorded. In the Lipetsk region, in the village of Yakovlevo, the thunderstorm was accompanied by hail up to 2 centimeters in diameter. Over the Bryansk, Kaluga, Oryol, Tula, and Smolensk regions, lightning strikes were exceptionally powerful and frequent for late November. Individual lightning discharges reached a current strength of up to 486 kiloamperes. For comparison, the amplitude of a typical lightning discharge is about 30 kiloamperes, which is 16 times smaller. The electromagnetic pulse was so strong that instruments detected it at a distance of 700 kilometers from the source, whereas at such distances it usually weakens or is not detected at all. Such thunderstorm activity in temperate latitudes would be unusually high even for summer, and for the end of November this event can be considered unprecedented. Australia. The powerful Category 3 tropical cyclone Fina reached the Northern Territory of Australia on the 22nd of November, bringing wind gusts of up to 200 kilometers per hour and record-breaking downpours. The next day, the Middle Point area received 430 millimeters of rainfall in 24 hours, which became a record figure for the local weather station. In the city of Darwin and other settlements, November maximums were also surpassed. The soaked soil caused centuries-old trees to fall, destroying homes and cars and causing significant damage. Approximately 19,500 people were left without electricity. The roof of the Royal Darwin Hospital was also damaged. The Tiwi Islands suffered the heaviest damage. Their power infrastructure was disrupted. Fortunately, there were no casualties. On the 25th of November, the weakened cyclone reached the remote coast of the Kimberley region in Western Australia, where wind gusts of up to 170 kilometers per hour were recorded near the mouth of the Berkeley River. At the same time, a powerful spring storm struck the eastern coast of Australia. The states of Queensland and New South Wales found themselves in the epicenter of the severe weather. On the 24th of November, a dangerous thunderstorm hit southeast Queensland, including Brisbane, Logan, and the Gold Coast. The rainfall was accompanied by huge hailstones up to 14 centimeters in size and destructive winds with speeds of more than 100 kilometers per hour. As a result, more than 150,000 households in the region were left without power, and cars, building roofs, and solar panels suffered serious damage. The strongest winds disabled hundreds of power lines, and within just one day, around 880,000 lightning strikes were recorded. In the Moreton Bay and Sunshine Coast areas, and on Bribie Island, the destruction was extensive. Fallen trees and debris blocked roads, disrupted train service, and forced authorities to close numerous schools across the region. Due to the enormous scale of destruction affecting both infrastructure and private property, this storm was officially declared an insurance catastrophe. Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, on the 23rd of November, a sudden eruption of the Hayli Gubbi volcano was recorded. The ash plume rose to a height of 15 kilometers, which led to the disruption of air corridors connecting Africa, the Middle East, and South Asia. A red code of aviation hazard was declared in the region. According to satellite data, on the 24th of November, not only an extended ash plume was observed, but also a powerful sulfur dioxide emission at altitudes from 5 kilometers to 17 kilometers, which indicates a major volcanic activity. The ash plume persisted in the atmosphere even after the eruption, moving across the Red Sea toward Oman and Yemen. It is noteworthy that until this November, no confirmed eruptions had been recorded at this volcano for the last 12,000 years. Its activity had been limited only to gas emissions. The sudden eruption of Hayli Gubbi has become yet another indication of the intensification of geological activity on the planet. Thailand.
ที่จะได้รับการช่วยเหลือ
ตอนนี้พยายามจะเข้าช่วยเหลืออยู่นะครับ
Last week, unrelenting torrential rains led to a large-scale disaster in 10 provinces of southern Thailand, affecting more than 2,700,000 people. Approximately 45,000 residents had to be urgently evacuated. Train traffic in the southern direction was temporarily halted by the state railways due to flooded tracks. Hundreds of tourists found themselves trapped in hotels and at the airport, unable to leave the dangerous area. On the 25th of November, the authorities declared a state of emergency and deployed the army, helicopters, and even the country's only aircraft carrier for rescue operations. The greatest difficulties arose in the Hat Yai district of Songkhla province, where the strongest flood in the past 25 years occurred. A record amount of rainfall hit the city of Hat Yai, a major business and tourist center. The water level reached 2.5 meters, forcing many people to spend several days on the roofs of their houses without food or water. Large snakes were swimming through the city streets. Hat Yai's main hospital, where 600 patients were located, including 50 in intensive care, was flooded. Helicopters were deployed to deliver food, generators, and to evacuate critically ill patients. In the newborn ward, 30 infants were placed in danger when water flooded the 2 lower floors of the building. The disaster claimed the lives of 33 people. Most victims drowned or died from electric shock. This deadly flood was not caused by a tropical storm, as is usually the case, but by a stationary low-pressure zone, which triggered the so-called rain bomb to strike the region. It was possible to forecast this flood only 2 hours before the water rushed into the city, and the events unfolded in the middle of the night, leaving minimal time for preparation and evacuation. Sri Lanka. On the 22nd of November, after prolonged heavy rains, a powerful landslide occurred in the Kegal district on a section of the Colombo-Kandy Road. Fearing repeated landslides, the authorities completely closed for 24 hours, one of the busiest and most important sections of this road. A tragedy could not be avoided. A huge boulder from the slope under the railway tracks, together with a mass of soil, collapsed onto a residential house and a roadside cafe popular among tourists. At the moment of the collapse, staff members and visitors who had come for breakfast were inside the building. 10 people ended up under the debris. Several cars parked nearby were damaged. The Sri Lankan army, the fire service, the police, and local residents were involved in rescue operations. 4 injured people with trauma were taken to the hospital. Unfortunately, 6 could not be saved. Bangladesh. On the morning of the 21st of November, an earthquake with a magnitude of 5.7 occurred in the central regions of Bangladesh. Its epicenter was located approximately 13 kilometers east of the capital, the city of Dhaka, and the focus was situated at a depth of about 10 kilometers. Many residential and industrial buildings suffered serious damage. In Dhaka, cracks appeared on the walls. In some places, plaster crumbled and parts of roofs collapsed. As a result of the disaster, at least 10 people died and more than 300 were injured. Despite the relatively moderate strength of the earthquake, the vulnerability of the urban infrastructure became the cause of such severe and tragic consequences. Dense development and old buildings with unreinforced brick or concrete walls, which are easily damaged during tremors, and during oscillations closely located, houses collide, causing debris to fall and creating an additional threat to people. The situation was also complicated by the geological conditions of the region, the soft and water-saturated soil of the Ganges and Brahmaputra River Delta, which amplifies vibrations and makes structures more vulnerable. Within the following 32 hours after the main shock, 3 aftershocks with magnitudes up to 4.3 were recorded in the region.